Hello, and you are back in the Velvet Room with Jokerthefool. This is our 44th episode, and today we'll be discussing the Iowa Caucus and the start of this crazy election season. Comicsgate has ruined any chance of being comics great, and the WEF is anti-human. So let's get right into it with the Iowa Caucus that was a couple days ago at this point, and it was a landslide victory for our good old orange friend Donald Trump. Won in a landslide victory. Is a very expected result if you've been following politics, and it's basically going to go that way for most likely New Hampshire. That's the first primary. That's the next thing you're going to hear about, and then I imagine the first Super Tuesday. There's like a Super Tuesday, I think a Super Thursday, where a whole bunch of states have primaries, and that's probably gonna go all Trump's way. I imagine Nikki Haley will get some votes along with DeSantis as well. They'll be the two ones who lag behind, but it's going to be all Trump all the way. For the Republican Party, he's got a very strong base around him that's staying there, and they're going to show up for the primaries at least. Now, the general election is going to be a complete and utter shit show, but the whole thing is that we're officially in election season if you're in America. So we're officially it's going to be nothing but the election and news relating to it and news relating about the candidates until sometime in November when it's all over. So it'll be the first couple days, maybe a day or two after the first Tuesday of November, depending on how many shenanigans they pull with counting the votes like they did in 2020, is when this will finally all end. So you're going to have to hear about how evil of a person Trump is. If he inevitably gets a nomination, he's even more in the news cycle than he already is, and whoever is running against him, which again they could be dragging, we could be going for a weekend at Biden's too, which seems like what they want to do. So the establishment is stuck in this really awful place, which I honestly love, where they want to maintain the legitimacy of the current government. That means making it seem like Biden can actually do his job and can serve in office for another 4 years, versus knowing that we basically have a glorified nursing home in the White House, and Biden's brain barely works. He can barely stay up past noon, do the freaking job of being the president, and they need to get somebody else. But if they do that, then the Democratic Party loses all legitimacy. And the Uniparty, by extension, does, because the Uniparty's agenda is very much basically the Democratic agenda, and the Republicans just act as a speed bump. So they want the Republicans to be the bad guys and the Democrats to be the good guys. That's how I see it. Maybe I could be a bit wrong on that, but that's basically the way I see things, is that the Democrats are the good ones. They do everything right. They're just trying to help all the poor, impoverished single mothers and people of color and migrants coming into this country, and the evil Republicans won't let them. So if Joe Biden, has to be, shuffled off because he's too freaking old and his brain barely works, and they try and bring someone new, whether that be Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris or whatever freaking person the Uniparty has enough dirt on to actually go through with something like this, is going to be a big blow to the legitimacy of the Democratic Party. Not like the Democratic Party's legitimacy was in a good spot beforehand, but it would get even worse if they had to do a switcheroo with Joe Biden, which is definitely a chance. But of course, they're going to hang on to Joe being the guy for, I'd say, as long as possible, because, like I said, they want to make it seem like everything is going to plan. They know what they're doing, and it's all all going well. And Joe Biden will defeat Trump again, because that's. I mean, I'm sure he honestly thinks that, but Joe Biden didn't defeat Donald Trump. People just voted against Trump, assuming, let's just say nothing happened in 2020. It was the most freest, fairest, the most legitimate election of all time. You can't say anything different, or else you're an insane conspiracy theorist. People weren't voting for Biden. They were voting against Trump. They were voting because they were voting for basically anyone that wasn't Trump. And that was the reason why Biden got the win that he did in 2020. It wasn't because people believed that he would make the country better, or he was actually a good person, or that he had any meaningful political experience, although that was used to justify the vote. It was like, oh, he's been in Senate for 40 some odd years. He was the vice president. He knows what to do. But it was more like, well, Donald Trump irreversibly damaged and ruined this country, and now we need to get someone who will restore the soul of this nation. That's what Biden said. That's what he ran on. That was the whole idea, was to take down Trump, to get rid of him, because he just had to go. Right? He was just so bad. He was the Antichrist, and the Antichrist was running amok, and he reined him in. And and it could have been anyone who did that, but it was against Trump, and that's really what this whole next election season is going to be. Is going to be demonizing Trump, demonizing him, focusing all this energy on him, so they can keep distracting you and running away with all the power and all the money and all these sorts of things. But we are going to move on to the next topic, because I think I have gabbed about that enough, and we're going to talk about Comicsgate. And I love the independent comics scene. I backed a whole bunch of books from Comicsgate. I've got a bunch of them sitting on my bookshelf that I need to read through sometime. So many things to do, and also I'm a pretty lazy person, and I use my discipline for other things. But anyway, I love comics. Independent comics scene, Comicsgate creators got me really into comics. This was 2022 when I knew the Rippaverse was cooking. I didn't know it was the only thing we knew before ISM 1 launch was that it was going to be called the Rippaverse. I'm not sure if that was confirmed, but anyway, when Eric said, hey, I'm making this comic book company, I'm going to be making my comic book, I was really excited about it. I got into the independent comic scene. I read all of Invincible in preparation for this, and I got into All Caps Comics as a brand. I bought all these Frog books. I got the All Caps Comics hoodie, all these sorts of things. So I got very much invested in Comicsgate in terms of it being an independent move, and how I want to make Machine Demand into a graphic novel because of the creators that inspired me, who go by that name or who are part of that movement. And that's not to say that everyone in Comicsgate is a bad person or irreparably awful. It's just that the people who are deemed to be, at the top of it now, you've got Ethan Van Sciver, John Malin, I got Shane Davis and a couple of others, Mandy Summers as well. I've really gone lockstep and key in just this absolute insanity of the Rippaverse is awful. It's terrible. It's the worst book ever made. That with ISM, and anybody who has any sort of opinion otherwise is just Eric July simp. Anyone who doesn't think ISM is a complete dog shit book clearly hasn't read it. I just buy the books just to say that they're good because that's my just to own it to the libs. I can't have read ISM 1 and 2 and Alpha Core 1 and just genuinely like them and be like, well, I like the Rippaverse. I like what it's about. I can't wait to see what's happening next with it. It's a whole superhero comic book universe that you can get lost in, and just there isn't that much material yet, but it's all on the way. It's all cooking, and I like the fact that's what he's focusing on doing, that in Eric July. But with Comicsgate, it's a lot less at this point about making comics in an independent scene free from these legacy corporate censors that want you to make literally everybody gay, trans, and talking about our cis heteronormative racist patriarchy that we find ourselves in supposedly, and being free from that and being able to make the books that you want, artists being able to draw what they want, writers being able to write scripts that they want, and the fans having enough faith in these creators to say, hey, here's the money before the book is done, get it done in a reasonable time frame, and ship it out to us. And while you have a good bit of people who have made crowdfunding work and have been able to deliver good work on time, a lot of people have not been able to do this. And the fact that Comicsgate has had a lot of late books, have had a lot of issues in terms of being these people running themselves or running their brands or operating in a business sense. has been a problem for a long time. That's been criticized before Eric July came onto the scene with the Rippaverse and talking about the economic issues in the independent comic book scene and comics in general. And that's really what's going to ruin it, in my mind. It has already ruined it. Is that it's more about farming drama and engagement on the internet and using Comicsgate and this whole thing to just be part of the culture war, rather than saying, I have this business that I run, and this business being making comic books and related merchandise and getting that to people as quickly as I possibly can, and or as quickly and with as much quality as I possibly can. And that's the issue there, and that's where it is. It's all this infighting, all this infighting and drama farming, that regardless of what side you fall on to it, you could be listening to this and think EVS is right about everything, fine. This is pushing people away from the independent comic scene. This is pushing people away from reading and engaging with comic books in the independent scene. Marvel and DC taking care of scaring off fans, of convincing people to not be customers, because they're employing people whose life mission is to tell people to not read books, right? So the legacy institutions got that covered, and now Comicsgate coming in saying, Comicsgate is coming in, a lot of them not being able to operate as a business. There are people who do crowdfunding right. I'll commend them for doing crowdfunding right. Genuine Comics, Iconic Comics, they do that fantastically. In my mind, they deliver very good, reasonable time frame, good products. I like them, support them. If you think their books are good, and lots of people do it correctly, but there are a lot of people who are sitting on tens of thousands, hundreds of $1,000s, and are years late with their books. And yes, it takes time to make everything, and I'm fine with delays, I'm fine with waiting for things, but there's a time where if you want to operate as a business, if you want to build a brand, you need consistent releases. Apple is a brand because an iPhone comes out every year. Amazon is a brand because there's 2-day Prime shipping and they actually stick to it. That is why people resonate and support them as brands, because there's consistent releases. There's a consistent product that you can engage with. And if you don't have consistent releases, if you take someone's money and then it's years between you get the book, and then while book one is out, your book one isn't even in your hands, you're starting to raise money for book two, it just delegitimizes the brand. It's bad for business, and that's what a lot of people are in with Comicsgate at this point, and that's the thing that's part of what's going to kill it. And like I said, the other thing is that all this drama farming is pushing people away. People don't like it. People say, well, hey, I don't like two dipshits arguing on Twitter about if this comic book is made with 3D assets, or if it's been traced, or if Eric July is the one and only most evil boogeyman of the comic scene, right? Or he can't take criticism or debate or whatever criticism is. The fact that these arguments are happening and there's all this infighting and gay ass drama that's happening is pushing people away from engaging with comics, and that is why Comicsgate is not Comicsgreat. Any chance of ruining it. It's not an alternative comic. It's not an alternative comic book space from the legacy institutions, Marvel, DC. You can probably include Image, Dark Horse, whatever. Those big players. It's not an alternative scene of independents that have a loose correlation of values and goals. It's just some people who just want to make books and actually make them, and a good amount of people who are just drama farming and just want attention on the internet, which, again, not the worst thing in the world, want attention on the internet, but it's gone way too far, and like I said, it's going to push a good amount of people from entering the comic scene, which is what we don't want, which is probably the opposite of Comicsgate. But I've talked about that long enough. We're going on to the last topic, and that is the WEF is anti-human, World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, all these other jokers. I may be a joker, but these jokers, or I say clowns, right? These clowns, complete garbage. Humans. They are anti-human, anti-natalist. They want you in the pods eating bugs. That is their entire goal. I saw one video from Homology. I couldn't find it, but basically this woman talking about ecocide, saying like, farming, fishing, being able to do those sorts of things, like the state should criminalize those things. And this is one of the reasons why I come out so hard against the state. Is the state has the power to criminalize these sorts of things, to be able to mandate cars having kill switches in them, to be able to mandate, the disability for people with small farms to sell their goods in any sort of reasonable way. That's the entire point. That's the entire reason why I lean so hard into being an ANCAP, is that the state is so antithetical to the idea of individual freedom. And especially when you have the WEF, which is trying to get all the governments of the world together to conspire to have this agenda, like I said, of getting people in the pods, eating bugs, owning absolutely nothing, and just being slaves to the consumerist corporate state. It'll be this one awful behemoth of a system where like I said, the state, the corporations basically all pool their resources together, own everything, have complete control, and basically all your food is just warehouses full of crickets that get grinded up into flour, fried in industrial freaking waste, canola oil, soybean oil, and then that's basically all your diet is while you're in a pod, just hooked up to a machine where you get pleasure just zapped into your mind, so that way you don't have any desire or ability to rebel. And that's really what I want you to know. That's my little standing up on the soapbox there, is that the WEF is anti-human. They're always going to be anti-human, and they're going to use the states, the governments of the world, to push that anti-humanistic agenda, which is why Milei, Javier Milei, is such a feared figure in the eyes of these people, because he's emblematic of libertarianism being able to win, of it being able to take a hold amongst the population, and people believe it, and people actually make meaningful progress towards freedom. And if we build on that, which I really hope that we do, and I think that we should, that means this whole system would fall apart pretty quickly, and we would reach this, I've said this before on Hump Day Potpourri, but there is this critical mass of people that will either become freedom-minded or go in line with the WEF's line of thinking. And one way or the other, once that happens, it'll be inevitable that that side wins, when enough people either wake up and realize that freedom, individualism, capitalism, as in the voluntary exchange of goods and services, is the only way to build a prosperous society, or you just get into the pod and eat the bugs and let Big Daddy Klaus Schwab dictate every single aspect of your human existence. And that is what the WEF, of course, wants, and they are going to basically use the state to strong-arm people into doing that. And I am here to say, be aware of it and go out against it. That's really all I've got to say. And I hope you enjoyed this one. This was our 44th episode. Last episode of this week. We'll be back next week, Tuesday, for the 45th episode, and we are heading into the outro now. Thank you for being in the Velvet Room with Joker the Fool. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, whether you're listening on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, or Substack. And be sure to subscribe to my Substack, velvetroompublishing.substack.com, to keep up with Machine to Man and all my other projects.